Yeah. And we'll merge. This is about data, so we'll just Photoshop. So, you know, the reason we felt that we need to talk of data science and healthcare and other areas is to see how do we solve complex problems, how do we solve grand challenges of tomorrow. For that, I invite Dr. Mashelkar, the chief guest of the day. If I have to introduce Dr. Mashelkar, that will take a long time. A very brief is here. While he switches on his laptop, you can see that. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you
I'll
very
go
much.
down to see the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Yes, we are on. Thank you very much. What a fascinating morning it has been. We had fantastic two keynote addresses. I learned so much sitting right there. And thank you, Dipanvita, for having me. It's a long, long time that I've come to IKMC. There has been a big gap. But my mind actually goes back to 20 years ago. You know who you see in the photographs? You have a pointer? Yeah. So you can see Chandrababu Naidu, the Chief Minister, the Governor here. At one corner is myself and Bala, who just now spoke. Ashok Ganguly, about whom you talked, Dipanvita. Yes, I have read his book. In fact, I happen to be the president of Pune International Center, and we are releasing his book, and I am having a fireside chat with him on the book. That is on the 10th of November. And of course, Wagul, who has been my mentor, my guide, he has done so much for me. And of course, K.V. Kamath. So this is a remarkable photograph. So thank you, Dipanvita. I insisted on getting a photograph because I wanted to live back those wonderful memories of so many years. And IKP Knowledge Park has done wonderfully well, as you can quite clearly see. Its spread, its impact has been really phenomenal. And the imprint that you have created, is absolutely amazing. And Dipanvita, I want to congratulate you. I saw you when you were that young. And it is amazing. They say in life, purpose, perseverance, and passion matters. Perseverance is very important. You never give up. Quitters are never winners, winners are never quitters. And you do it with a big purpose and with passion. You absolutely epitomize this. So a big hand. Thank you. What I'm going to do is that, yes, we are looking into the future. We need to be future ready. And frankly, the current shocks that we have seen with COVID and Ukraine, and you don't know what next, maybe Taiwan, no idea. So therefore, to predict future is very difficult. But with our limited abilities, we'll try to see what the future will be. But the point I'm going to make is that for being future ready, you need a paradigm shift in the innovation strategy. Uday, we have been followers, as you rightly said, and as it came out during your discussion. We became fast followers. Any new molecule will come anywhere. Within 18 months, we would create a copy. And it helped. It built the generic industry. No problem. All right? Because our IP laws allowed that until 1/1/2005. Then we had these aspirations of leading. And then, of course, we want to lead and move fast, and then we talk about leapfrogging. I'm going to propose no leapfrogging, pole vaulting. And how is that pole vaulting going to take place? And I want to assure you, India is pole vaulting in many, many ways. You would say, where did that idea come from? I've been on the board of Reliance from 2007, and Mukesh created Reliance Innovation Council. We had John Mary Len, the Nobel laureate. We had Bob Grubbs, the Nobel laureate. We have Bill Hasseltine, whom you know. He was a member. C.K. Prahlad was a member. And of course, he passed away. Then we had Gary Hamel and so on. So I was chairing it. And the basic dictum was growth is life. And you have seen the growth that Reliance has had. And when we brought in this innovation, we said innovation will be a way of life. And you combine the two, it becomes innovation-led growth. But it's not linear growth. It has to be exponential, because we believe in exponentials in Reliance. So if you want to have exponential growth, then you can't have incremental innovation. You have to have disruptive innovation. You have to game-changing innovation. So once Mukesh and I were talking, and he said, Doc, we must leapfrog. You know? I said, hold on. Why does the frog leap? Because he's afraid of the predator. And he jumps a few feet. And again jumps a few feet as a reaction. Should we do that? Or should we pole vault? The size of the pole is the size of your aspiration, and you can go far. He loved the idea, and we created a leadership program called Beyonders. All right? Young people, around 20, 25 people, who can think beyond the realms of possibilities. All right? And they were supported, you know, by setting up some aspirational targets and sort of moving forward, making impossible possible was their job description, by the way. Now, have we pole vaulted? This book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, that I co-authored with Ravi Pandit, my friend, actually describes this entire phenomenon of moving from leapfrogging to pole vaulting. And I'm very happy to say it won the Business Book of the Year award in 2019, and now it is winning the National Bestseller Book. Now, in terms of pole vaulting, you can see the phenomenon. For example, if you look at mobile data consumption, we were here, and thanks to Jio, we pole vaulted here from 156th position to number 1 position in mobile data usage in February 17. We did not leapfrog from 156 to 100. We pole vaulted, and that position is held. There are many experts here who will sort of validate that, so as to say. Now, if you look at the speed at which it was done, the pole vaulting to reach 50 million users, telephone did it in 50 years, mobile in 12, YouTube in 4, Facebook in 3, Twitter in 2, Reliance Jio pole vaulting was 83 days. You say, oh yeah, deep pockets, so it is possible. No, I'm sorry. The book describes actually the innovations that were done in order to make it happen in 83 days. So when you do pole vaulting, it is done with speed, it is done at a scale, and it is sustainable. Speed, scale, and sustainability. Now, pole vaulting to fastest, largest financial inclusion, you have seen India has done it. For example, the JAM that you are all familiar with, it got even Guinness Book of Records. So we have been doing it. If you look at, since this conference is mainly about biotech, And a reference was made a little earlier, Dipanvita, by your citing some numbers. And I must acknowledge this slide I borrowed from the current Secretary of Biotechnology, Rajesh Gokhale. Okay, so it has some authenticity. And what you can see here, within a decade, if you look at biotech startups, for example, it is 100x, 50 to 5,300. If you look at the funds that were raised or the IP that were filed, the bioeconomy, the way it is growing, and there is an aspiration, he tells me, that by 2025 will be 150 billion bioeconomy, so as to say. So we are doing it. I want to give you the confidence that quietly we have been doing it, you have contributed to it, and I want to make a special mention of BIRAC. Without BIRAC, this would not have been possible. And I must make a special mention of my friend M.K. Bhan, who is no more, and Renu Swarup. These two, I think they deserve a big round of applause for making this pole vault possible. Now, what are the characteristics of pole vaulting innovation? You would say, since you are introducing a new term, it is your responsibility to define it properly. So I'm defining it. First, it causes revolution, not just renovation, a bit here. Second, it is new to the world, not just to a company or country. We are very fond of saying, first time in Pune, first time in Hyderabad, first time in Delhi, first time in India. Are chodo. We have to talk in terms of first time to the world. Second, unprecedented cost performance features, not just marginal, not 10%. We are talking about 10x. All right? And entirely new products and services, not just tinkering as we do. And finally, this is very close to my heart, I am not a great believer in best practice, following best practice, because you are following. When we say we do the best practice, that means it exists somewhere and you are following. Sorry, you have to create the next practice. Whether it is in science, whether it is in technology, whether it is in innovation, all right, how do we do that? So what I'm appealing to you is a complete change of mindset, so as to say. Now I would say, is it possible to create the next practice? Well, it is possible. You know, in my mother's name, I have created this Anjani Mashelkar Inclusive Innovation Award. It is not given to the best practice. It is given to the next practice. And those of you who are interested, this Civil Society magazine has carried a cover page story on it. It has gone on for 11 years. And you will see 11 next practices, not best practices. I'll just illustrate some for you. For example, Rahul Rastogi for Sanket ECG device. You know, this is the best practice, isn't it, for taking ECG. He created the next practice, which is here. He has a device, as a matter of fact, which you can see here, which you put around your heart, your two thumbs for 15 seconds, and then there is a sensor. Above the heart, 15 seconds. Below the heart, 15 seconds. And if you have downloaded an app called Sanket, you get a 12-lead ECG. In fact, initially, he had a 6-lead. I said, nothing doing. We have to have 6-lead when we give him the award. And then the 12-lead was actually made with support of Tata Trust and so on. And today, in 8 countries, some 2 lakh devices have been sold, and he is growing at something like 20% CAGR at this point in time. So next practice to best practice. Inaugural, for example, Touch HB, you can see him receive the award. Hemoglobin test, best practice, next practice. Best was invasive with needles. Next is non-invasive, no needles. Cost 150, this cost is 10. And this was his first device, basically. Dipanvita, we talked about it yesterday. And this used high technology, photoplethysmography, spectrophotometry, advanced software, photon scattering. Now here is a message. Making high technology work for the rich, very easy. Making low technology work for the poor, very easy. Making high technology work for the poor, very difficult. This is an instance. And then again, if this became the best practice, he wanted to create the next practice himself, and he has created something which is spectacular. He actually captures the picture of conjunctiva and uses the method of reflectance photometry to estimate the hemoglobin content in blood, and millions are benefiting from that. All that you have to do is to look into the camera. You can see how your rural healthcare picture can change. You don't have to take blood, send it to the, etc., etc., etc. Don't have to do that. You know, this is game changing. All right? That's what I mean. You look at Mir Shah from eye breast exam, for example. What is the best practice when you are looking for breast cancer? Biopsy or mammography. He has created this low-cost tactile sensor that measures tissue stiffness difference in real time. It is ultra-portable, accurate, minimal training, wireless, cloud-connected, and partnership with UE Life Sciences and GE Healthcare. They're trying to go to 25 countries, over 500 million women. I'm keeping track. They are nowhere near 500 million. They are something like 10 to 12 million, but it does not matter. We talked about creating products in India, which will serve the rest of the world, make in India for the world. I think this is a brilliant example. And these are all young startups, by the way, all right, who have been able to do it, from best practice to next practice. So let us believe that we can lead the world, we can have ideas, and we can sort of take them forward. Now, I talked about pole vaulting, and you will say, how do we assure that you don't break your back when you pole vault? When I was writing the book, somebody asked me. So this is the matrix we created. This is the technology challenge for being future ready. How do you, when you pole vault, don't break your back? So you have to have certain attributes associated with the breakthroughs that you create: affordable, scalable, sustainable, universal, rapid, excellent, and distinctive, assured. Okay. Now, this particular framework, we have tested it out in terms of success. And you can see some of these companies that you see were successful at a point in time, but they don't exist simply because something or the other from the assured framework fell out, basically, all right? So we started using this particular framework, and this is semi-quantitative or quantitative, by the way. You can start putting numbers against each, and it has gone around. In fact, I got the first opportunity to use it when Swachh Bharat mission was announced, and by our Prime Minister, and there was a standing committee under my chairmanship to select the drinking water and sanitation, the best of technologies from around the world, and we started using that. And this semi-quantitative framework, as a matter of fact, you start deep diving into everything. Like when you talk about affordable, it's not just the number, but certain other features which make it affordable, all right, or scalable, sustainable. Sustainability has a number of features. For example, a good business model, not dependent upon subsidies. Governments change, subsidies go, all right. Environment, if you are not green, you will finish. The regulator, basically. Regulations keep on changing. You have seen the GM, for example. I'm very happy to see GM mustard is being now sort of approved. But at the same time, earlier, it was not, so as to say. So when regulations change, you have a challenge and so on and so forth. So each of these factors actually were measured. And if you want to now get selected for this drinking water sanitation technologies in Jal Shakti Ministry, you will have to fill up the assured framework. It has gone to startups. Many startups are using this. SMEs, corporates, Tata Consultancy Services, for example. Investors are using it for screening the promising opportunities. Innovation accelerators are using it. Certain government department agencies, labs are using it, and so on and so forth. So this is spreading. In fact, I was in Monash University as Sir Louis Matheson Distinguished Professor, and I found them basically using it. So I think the main point I'm trying to make is that when you are, and by the way, once assured is not always assured. In fact, you have to ask yourself, am I assured today? Because the word changes, and all of you who use TRL, by the way, technology readiness level, please understand that TRL is for the current business. It doesn't look into the future, how it is going to change, as a matter of fact. All right? Are we technology ready for today's business? This looks at the future business. and say that. So I think this is an important message I want to leave with. Dipanita, you wanted me to talk about the future challenges. I'm giving you some generic challenges which India is going to have, just as the world is going to have. I think the first is asymmetry. World's greatest challenge today is amazingly increasing inequality, by the way. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And that's a sure way of social disharmony. And we have to do that. And that is why inclusive innovation becomes important. I was not going to talk about Gandhian engineering here, where I'm talking about affordable excellence, so as to say, as the basic key. How do you get access equality despite income inequality? That is the solution. So that is the asymmetry. Secondly, disruption, impact of technology, climate change, etc. I think that is where technology is going to play a big role. Third is age. We are aging society. We have a limited window in which we will have this demographic advantage, and the rest of the world, of course, has a big challenge. So innovation in technology is going to be the pluralization, I mean, breakdown of global consensus and fracturing world with growing nationalism and populism is going to be one challenge. And the last one is trust. Sir, you talked about trust. In a sense, why our products actually we don't trust them. Let me tell you a little story. One of the Anjani Mashelkar Inclusive Innovation Awarding was Naveen Khanna. He had created a dengue test. Okay? Dengue, I hope none of you had, but if you had, it would have taken you 1 or 2 days. His method does it in 15 minutes. Not only that, it shows at what stage. He has interesting markers by which it shows at what stage it is. Uday, he created that, since you are continuing your conversation, nobody would buy it. It was US FDA certified, he had US patents because it was a very innovative technology. Nobody would buy it. Why? Because we're importing from US, Australia, and South Korea. Okay? Then what happened was, suddenly a pandemic came, and all the kits we were sort of running out, and then there was no option but to go for him. But how did that happen? Still he was not getting it. US said, we don't have time, we can't give you. Australia said, we don't have time. South Korea said, we'll send you. And as luck would have it, those kits were loaded on the wrong ship, which went to Africa. So we had no kits. From 0% market share, his market share within less than a year went to 78%. So if the ship had come, it would be still 0%. So, sir, that is the challenge that we have. That's why I always say talent, technology, and trust, basically. Next is, of course, 3 dominant Ds, and you are the experts. All of you have talked about it, digitalization. Democratization includes decentralization, by the way, because it is your power, then you help. And decarbonization, according to me, they are going to be critical. And of course, we talked about decontamination. It's going to be one of the important challenges. Now, if you see geo pole vaulting to change the game, it has done democratization of digitalization. If you see before geo and after geo, 4G volte flame from 300 to 23, data per GB cost from 5 to 1 cent, voice free, and so on and so forth. And that has made a big difference. And that's why you see the digitalization has all helped in pole vaulting in Indian startup ecosystem, for example. Until 2016-17, we were having 1 unicorn adding every year, and 2021, it added 40 unicorns, practically 1 every week. It has changed. Now you can deep dive and say, oh my God, but they are B2C, they should be B2B, they should be B2B2C. Arre, chodo. What I'm saying is that the country is seeing a sort of a great sort of phenomenon, and that would not have happened, as a matter of fact. So we have had a pullover. This, of course, the industry landscape future will depend entirely on digitalization. The transformations will be pushed by digital technology. And as far as IKP is concerned, of course, in this space, there is a lot, and particularly I'm very happy you talked about the interface between biology and the digital world. There is a huge scope. In fact, I have written a paper which I'll make available to you. It's about 2050 and some of the things that will happen, and one of them is this interface. It will transform. And you talked about Uday Web 3.0. I agree with you. You have moved from 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. You are the developer and you are the owner, and it is multi-directional. So you are absolutely right there. And this is how it is going to work: open, trustless, and permissionless. All right. So they have all the elements, and therefore, democratization. I'm looking the word democratization, based on, of course, decentralization, everything as a service, for example, Web 3.0 and decentralized internet, you referred to that. That is going to be the way. Centralization of data to decentralization, like you implied, and, of course, metaverse that everybody talks about. But I have given a separate talk, by the way, on metaverse or metaverse, W-R-S-E. There's a challenge. We need to be a little careful. I don't have time to get into that, but that's a new word that is opening up for sure. And finally, decarbonization. Very important. What are the promising solutions for decarbonization? Since you talked about the new technologies, new word that we need to look at: carbon capture, energy storage systems, green hydrogen, green ammonia, wind energy, hydropower, all these solutions are there. In each of these, we'll have to see what is it that we can do to look at it as a grand challenge and actually pole vault. See, for example, we have been pole vaulting, like India's pole vaulting towards fastest LED penetration, 0.2% to 88% in 7 years. All right? What was it? It became, the ESL, for example, was created. It was demand aggregation as an innovation, and then creating ESL, which became the biggest catalyst for the LED revolution. And the technology got adopted in 6 months, while it should have taken 5 years. The LED bulb is now cheaper than bread, etc. It was sort of a government policy interest. It is technology plus policy. See, that goes actually together, and you can see the difference. In fact, I don't mind telling you, there is a Queen Elizabeth Prize of Engineering, £1 million, which is like Nobel Prize in Engineering. I'm on their board, on the jury. And one of the arguments that won it, by the way, was my saying that this is what has happened in India. Because finally, technology must make a big sort of difference. Otherwise, it doesn't sort of matter. And in that particular case, I want to, in terms of decarbonization, say that pole vault requires a preparation. Leapfrogging is instant reaction, and you jump. For pole vaulting, you have to start from a zero velocity, and you run, and you cover the distance and generate the velocity. We created what is called as the New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative, NIMITLI. Many of you may know that, which was actually quite different in a sense that India was operating in regions where markets were certain and technologies were certain. We said, no, let us move into other areas. And we went into this NIMITLI program. And you can see today we have our indigenous fuel cell. We don't have to beg and borrow. $400 per kilowatt compared to $1,000 sort of globally, and this is doing runs. Had we not done that proactively, this would not have happened. And Mukesh has already given this aspiration of creating 111. We had a fireside chat. This is the toughest target that one has actually set, $1 per kilogram within sort of 1 decade. I happen to chair this Energy Council. And for that, we need to set up targets like this, for example. Water we are going to run out, seawater electrolysis with innovative chemistries, can we do that? Green ammonia, for example, just from water and air, etc. These are the kind of grand challenges that we need to look at. We are working on some of them. And I will not sort of get into further detail. What I wanted to say was, as a matter of fact, we have a big comparative advantage in terms of generating the highest intellectual capital per dollar, and we have to leverage it. What we require are leaders, as a matter of fact. We are beyonders who can jump beyond the realms of possibilities. I'm very happy that spirit of pole vaulting is going across. General Bipin Rawat is no more. He was Chief of Defence Staff. He read the book and said, time has come to move from leapfrogging to pole vaulting. Ladies and gentlemen, time has come for building a pole vaulting Atmanirbhar Bharat with Atmavishwas, with self-confidence. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just a second, sir. So I know we have eaten completely into our tea time, so anybody who wants, they can grab. We'll start the next session right away. But before that, I cannot stop mentioning this because one of our startups has given us a rare privilege and distinction of naming a hybrid orchid in IKP's name. I think that is the biggest, in the last 22 years, a recognition that IKP has got. So thank you, Rajkumar. Thank you so much. Thank you. So this is the flower. That's the parental, this is the flower. It has been already registered. And Rajkumar Kishore from K&K Orchids, Manipur, has actually, if you look at this flower, it's called Phalaenopsis IKP Knowledge Park. And I'm feeling so proud that this could happen. And if you look, the core is the deep pink and the colors are emanating. That's the ecosystem. So with that, I want to thank Rajkumar and thank you. And so I don't know how to break for tea because our session starts right away. Anybody wants to grab some tea and come, please. But I think we have to make up for our time. So thank you so much. And thank you, sir. Okay, we want to take a photo? Sure.
From a scientist to an entrepreneur, what holds you back? That session is being conducted there. In parallel, there is a workshop, Tech Transfer Fundamentals and Understanding Term Sheets in the hall G2 and G3. Please proceed. Thank you very much. And looking forward to the next session. The next session is on scaling biologics, standing at the crossroads. We will take a 20 minutes break. Thank you for your... They have to go and come back for tea.